Hey, how you doing, Katie?
Hey, nice to see you,
Good to
Tobias.
see
Yeah,
you.
good to see you.
So we're here today at the Antero Willow Glen office, and we connected online because I had reached out about my parents are aging, and they want to age in place. And so I sent out an email to the broker to see if anybody knew anything about the business. And so thank you very much for reaching out to me. And just tell me a little bit about what you do and what office are you out of?
So I'm with the Antero Los Gatos office, and I am a certified senior advisor. And what that means is that I can help you with all things that have to do with seniors.
Great.
I like to say that I'm your Swiss Army knife for all things senior.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have to meet up with you. I have to ask you some questions.
Absolutely.
In real estate, people don't necessarily want to sell their home, but they end up having to sell their home for one reason or another. And I sent the email out, ran into two aging individuals who I thought, oh, wow, I think they really could use a transition. And I told you a little bit about, and so one of them, her name is Sally, and I was telling you about the scenario. So if you could tell me a little bit about, had a mini stroke. What did you call that again?
We call them a TIA.
Okay. Yeah. She had been living, and she's still living independently. I guess a property mate, somebody who lives there with her, but is not really, maybe she cooks or does some other things. Seems like some of the daily sort of kind of, and what would you do in that scenario?
Yeah, great question, Tobias. So I think this is an often thing that people face is maybe they have a neighbor, a friend, or a family member that their property is run down, we would like to say. You had mentioned there's some broken windows. Yeah. I'm sure there's some, as we like to say in real estate, deferred maintenance. Yeah. It means, oh my God, that house on the street.
Right.
I also said that there is a RV or so in the driveway with a person not related to Sally. Sally meant, but they've been there for quite a long time now. The other thing I wanted to touch on was just being, have you been in the house?
I have not.
Okay.
I went through, and it just seems like there's a lot of clutter and a lot of collecting.
Yeah. I think what we have in this situation may be a little spice of everything I've seen. So you will have a single person, could be male or female, living in a house they potentially inherited. Okay. They had from 5 decades ago, 6 decades ago. That time, they didn't invest anything on keeping the house up. The window got boarded up with some tape and some cardboard, and then there's another broken window been maintained. Debris that what we like to call in my business, my senior living business, is fall risk. That's a big part of it. The second thing that's really important in this situation is that you've never been in the house. Yeah. She is physically keeping people probably out of coming in that house. Yep. That is often a telltale sign of a hoarder. Okay. A real psychological, people cannot let go of anything. You'll find stacks of newspapers that are 20 years old. Wow. You'll find every magazine. I just experienced this with a client. I have found Costco magazines, those little flyer things that were from 2010. Wow. And they kept being pushed in corners. Okay. It's a real sickness as you age, right? And I think what it gives people comfort. I think she's got some hoarding going on. Okay. You
approach someone because, again, she is that in that distance, and obviously she needs help, and you can't help somebody unless they want help. But how would you approach an individual who maybe has a little bit of a support network? I told you she has a stepdaughter who ended up paying her taxes she was behind on and comes to check on her from time to time. But how would you approach an individual that you help, and how would you start that conversation with them, or how would I give you the referral in a good, positive way so everybody could feel good about it?
Yeah. I think the number one thing in that situation is to sort of things. I will say on this hand, the number one thing, make sure the plumbing's working, to make sure she has proper heat during the winter time. And another issue when you have a house with a lot of things in it and it's not been maintained is you have the potentiality of pests in the house. That can be a health hazard, right? So there's that side of it, the health hazard, safety, trip and fall. And then her competency. You did have a TIA. Is she really thinking straight, right? Or is this a progressive decline?
Right.
So the first thing in this situation is exactly what you've been doing. I would say you're doing great.
Okay.
You're checking in on her. You're giving her resources. And all the underlying part is building trust. It doesn't sound like she's got a lot of people in her life
Right.
that she can trust. But if you're consistent, and I would build that relationship, and then I would get a hold of the stepdaughter.
Okay.
Or is that one family member?
Yeah, you mentioned how many people have come by here and said they were going to do this and said they were going to do that, and I never see them again.
Yeah.
I've been back to the house 2 or 3 times. And it's time to go back, right? It's time to figure out, hey, has stepmother been coming back? Or
right.
At what point would you call in city services, social services? Again, myself, I'm not a senior transition specialist, right?
Yep.
So at what point would I say, hey, this is a safety issue, to the point where maybe a neighbor or something you notice in the house from the outside is a concern? Who would I call? Who would I go to at that point?
The best agency to call is Adult Protective Services. Okay. Will tell you they have so many calls, it's unbelievable. That's why I would go to the family member first and see. There is, pardon me, some traction because she's paying for the taxes, which is great. And I don't know if she's paying out of the goodness of her heart,
right,
or Sally has some resources that we're not familiar with.
Right.
Think even if she stays in the house, helping get the house more safe for her as she ages.
Okay.
That's the big one.
Right.
The person in the driveway right now, who's living in the RV, I think that's not as big of a threat.
Right.
I think her living conditions inside, I think, are the biggest thing.
Okay. Well, should I go follow up? And Katie, thank you so much for meeting with me and doing this video.
Thank you for taking care of Sally.
Thank you for watching. All right.
Cool.